So what do you want to hear from Jay Powell and Steven Mnuchin?
Well, I want to hear that the Fed is going to be predictable and transparent in their actions. And when they say they're going to take actions, they follow through with their actions. That's what I want to hear from Jay Powell. What I want to hear from Steven Mnuchin is the administration's perspective and point of view on a potential next package for legislators here on Capitol Hill. We need to hear clearly what the administration's approach is and what they're asking Congress to do. At this point, that is something that's lacking clarity from the administration. And Republicans and Democrats alike on Capitol Hill want to at least hear their perspective on what needs to happen for this last package before the presidential election.
I can understand why there may be some mixed signals and maybe a little bit of opaqueness when it comes to some of these plans. I think we're all kind of watching what happens across the country, if not on a week-by-week basis, maybe even a day-by-day basis, just to count the numbers that are coming in, how some of these reopenings are going, how businesses are faring, how consumers are feeling about things, whether or not states have reopened, if the consumers are showing up to some of these places. What's your feeling? Because it sounds like you are a little concerned about potentially putting more money on the table.
Well, I want to know that we're doing the right amount of spending, right? We, in the CARES Act and with the Fed stimulus, we've chucked out trillions of dollars into the marketplace. But the fact is, we can push as much fiscal and Fed stimulus out. That doesn't change the fact that the American people want to be safe and healthy in how they reengage. And until they feel and believe that they can safely reengage, the economy doesn't return to the fullness of its capacity, and we don't get things going again. So we need to get that health question right and how we can safely reemerge. And until we get that right, look, I mean, Congress and the Fed are secondary in this economic question.
It sounds like you are advocating, though, that the money we do have be spent on things like testing and on hospitals if you want to make sure that the public feels safe about this and goes about this the right way?
Absolutely. The testing regime in the United States, we've obviously done more testing than any other country in the world. But we have to amp this up. So anyone who wants a test can immediately get one. I think that would change the nature of airlines. I think that would change the nature of how we go back to work, how we send kids back to school or get college students back on campus. If we don't get that right, then nothing else really matters, quite frankly, because without that viewpoint that you can get a test, number one, and number two, if you show up sick, that there is a regime that can get you well again. And until you get those two things right, we can put as much cash in people's pockets. They're not going to go out to bars and restaurants unless you're a 20-something, right, who thinks you're bulletproof. You're not going to go back out and reemerge as you did in January of this year or a year ago.
Would you push back on the administration then? Because it has suggested or has indicated that it's going to be ending federal testing, or federal dollars for testing, and kind of push that back on states and local municipalities. It sounds like you'd like to see the federal government continue to fund that.
I think the federal government has a fundamental role here. I think we have a fundamental role, as you heard from Scott Gottlieb yesterday. I think the federal government has a coordination role. I think the federal government has a funding role. I think we should have every means of our government get testing out so that it becomes basically as ubiquitous as a smartphone. And if we have that, I think that will give people safety. Not because the numbers are good. Maybe the numbers are horrible. But that actually will give us the metrics that are foundational for us to reemerge economically. And so I think you have to have that coordinated effort in order for this for us to have a turn here.